We're with renowned war correspondent, international expert Richard Chesnoff, one of the people in the West who actually knows Muammar Khaddafi best. They've met numerous times. We'll hear a little bit about that in a few minutes. But the first question right now is, to use the best baseball parlance, at the bottom of the ninth, is Muammar Khaddafi capable of pushing the button on the poison gas and other WMDs he may still have in his arsenal?
He may be. I would suspect that at this point he's not. But I think the biggest danger is not from him, but from somebody who may follow him or from some of the people who may follow him, because this is not a clear transition from Muammar Khaddafi to this great democratic government. We don't know what's coming, and that's the biggest problem I think we have.
Speaking of which, do we have any idea of who's really in charge of the quote-unquote good guys who've pushed him out?
No. We don't. There is a Mustafa Abdul Jalil, who used to be the Minister of Justice, is now ostensibly the head of the new committee that's supposedly. But this is just made up of so many different people and so many different movements and so many different types of organizations. We don't know what's going to come, and I think anybody who thinks it's just going to move somehow, even with American and NATO assistance or technical assistance, that is going to move to a democratic government, doesn't understand Libya.
Well, which brings me to the next point. Try it if you can. Give us a little bit of insight. This has been a country made up of many tribes that Gaddafi has basically run on his own terms for 4 decades. What kind of society are we looking at? How does the place function without a man like Gaddafi?
The place has functioned in the past and over all the generations as this tribal society. It wasn't one country. There were 3 countries, and the Italians, when they took it over in the 30s, they kept it as 3 countries. They had, Tripolitania, and there were 3 different sections of the country, basically broken up into tribal groups. In many ways, Gaddafi was like Tito in Yugoslavia. He kept all these disparate groups and ethnic groups and ethnic countries as one, for better or for worse. But this was Gaddafi's success.
Tell us about Tell us about the first time you met the man. What kind of person did you interface with?
When I heard over the past few days about all the journalists who've been kept prisoner in the hotel, basically that's what happened when I came to Tripoli. I had a scheduled interview with him, and they kept me in my hotel for 8 days. I couldn't go out. And then finally I did see him. Look, he is crazy as a fox. He has his eccentricities. I think he was dressed in an Yves Saint Laurent ski suit the night I saw him. But he knows what he's doing, and his madness is an eccentricity that he plays with, and he plays with you. He spoke to me that night about how he was like the George Washington or the Abraham Lincoln of Africa, not of the Arab world. Then he was still talking about Africa, and then he turned into the Arab world. He knows what to say. He understands English. He speaks some English, but he prefers to speak in Arabic. He took me to see where he'd been sleeping when the United States, or where the United States thought he was sleeping when we bombed his home in 1986 or 7, whatever it was. He goes for drama, and but he wasn't a ranting fool. He knew exactly what he was doing and how he was doing it.
And what was the last time that you had a chance to meet him? What had changed, if anything, when you saw him on another occasion?
Well, I had met him one time before. I met him this time in 86. And then I met him again in 1992, I think it was, 93. We both aged a little bit. But he was, as he was again, we met in his bedroom tent. And his discussions with me were, he remembered who I was. And he thanked me because he said my interview, unlike most interviews he gave, didn't quote him accurately. I quoted him accurately. He said, I'm very appreciative of that. I thought that was very nice of him to say. But he wanted to again talk about his ideas of a united world. He had all these mad, nutty projects and ideas of how to unite the world. You may remember he once suggested that the Palestinians and the Israelis one state called Pal-Israel or something, or Israelstein or something. Like he came out with all these ideas all the time. He was always very hospitable as part of the tradition, and he was interesting. But he was a dangerous man, and he was a very scary man. I don't know if anybody can follow him and keep this country pulled together.
Now, on the outside that he's captured alive, do you see an international community with enough guts to actually bring him to The Hague and put him on trial for crimes against humanity?
Yes, I think yes, we will do that if the Libyans allow it. I think the Libyans will prefer to have him kept in Libya and tried in Libya. You know, when all this broke out a few months ago, everybody was saying he's going to, he's going to run away. He's going to fight. I said he's going to fight to the end. This is not a man who runs away easily. This is not a man who gives up. I may prove wrong. He may be in Algeria already, for all we know. But my prediction was that he would either win ultimately, or he will end up like Mussolini, hanging by his feet in a gas station in downtown Tripoli. Mussolini was in Milan, but that's what I predicted as the end for him. And I think that may happen. He may be murdered in the attempt to capture him, but he's not going to give up.
Well, I remember your predictions when we spoke a few months ago that this would be a long, drawn-out affair. It's turned out to be exactly that. We appreciate your taking the time, and we might yet come back to you for the final chapter on Gaddafi's fate and those of his sons. Thank you, Richard Chesnoff.
My pleasure.
All the best.